The first snowfall that year came earlier than expected. Tiny flakes drifted past my kitchen window like forgotten memories. Soft, quiet, and cold. I stood by the stove, watching steam rise from my teacup, feeling the warmth fade from my hands. It had been 3 years since David passed away, but the ache hadn't. Grief doesn't fade. It just learns to whisper instead of scream. That morning, I was expecting my children. Emily had texted, "Mom, we'll come by this afternoon. Need to talk about something important." Those 6 words, something important, felt heavier than they should have. I baked banana bread, the way Emily liked. I polished the wooden table, lit the lavender candle Noah once said reminded him of home. For a moment, it felt like old times again. But when they arrived, they didn't even hug me. Noah went straight to the living room, setting his briefcase down with the same precision his father used. When discussing bills, Emily followed, her eyes avoiding mine. "Mom," she began, "you know this house is too big for you now. You're alone. We've been thinking, maybe it's time to sell it." I smiled weakly, thinking it was just concern. A simple suggestion. But then Noah opened his briefcase, and my world cracked. There, among the papers, was the deed to my house. My signature, forged, dates, clauses, and fine print that blurred before my eyes. "What is this?" I whispered. Noah sighed, impatient. "It's already done, Mom. We handled everything. You'll move into a nice assisted living place. Safe, comfortable." "Handled?" I said. "You handled selling my home?" Emily's lips trembled. "We did it for you, Mom. You're getting old. It's not safe for you here." Old. Unsafe. In their voices, I heard pity dressed as love, and greed hiding behind concern. I felt the floor tilt beneath me. The walls I'd painted with my husband's laughter now pressed in like strangers. "You forged my name," I said. Noah looked away. "It's not like that. We'll explain later. Just trust us, okay? Trust." The same word I once used to lull them to sleep. I remember my hands shaking, the teacup falling, shattering into white porcelain pieces. A sound that would echo in my dreams for months to come. And that was the day my children stopped being my children. They moved quickly after that. Within a week, I was told the house had been transferred. Legal words, emotionless and sharp. A realtor arrived, cheerful, rehearsed, talking about market value and potential buyers. Every word scraped against my heart. I stood outside the red door as she took pictures, her camera clicking like a countdown to my exile. The white roses by the fence swayed gently in the wind, unaware their caretaker was being erased. That night, I sat alone in the empty living room. Dust floated through the fading light. My husband's armchair was gone. The piano Emily once played was covered with a tarp. I opened an old photo album. There we were. A young couple, 2 bright-eyed kids, a house full of dreams. I wanted to tear the pages apart, but instead I held them to my chest and wept. I called Emily, hoping, praying she'd answer. "Mom, please don't make this harder," she said softly. "You'll thank us later. You can't live alone forever." "Emily," I whispered, "a house isn't just walls. It's where I held you when you were sick, where your father took his last breath. You can't just sell that." There was silence. Then, a click. She hung up. That night, I didn't sleep. I walked through every room, memorizing the creak of the floors, the smell of old wood, the faint echo of laughter trapped between walls. When dawn came, I made a promise, not to forgive, not yet, but to survive. 2 weeks later, a man in a gray suit came to the door. He had the kind of face that never smiled, only delivered news. "Mrs. Lewis, I'm afraid the property is officially under new ownership. You'll need to vacate within 10 days. I felt my knees weaken. But this is my home. My husband built it." He handed me an envelope. Inside, the legal notice. Every line screamed betrayal. My children's names were printed at the bottom, neat and professional. I couldn't breathe. After he left, I sat on the porch steps. The sky was a dull gray, heavy with snow. Across the street, neighbors passed by. Some waved politely, unaware that the woman they'd known for 30 years was losing everything that defined her. Packed slowly, not because I had much, because every object held a story. David's old tools, the worn-out recipe book, Emily's childhood blanket, Noah's high school medal. Each box felt like a burial. The last night in the house, I lit a single candle and whispered to the walls, "I'm sorry. David, I couldn't protect what we built. The first night after leaving my home, I stayed in a cheap motel on the edge of the city. The kind where walls are thin and silence carries other people's sorrows." I sat on the bed, staring at the floral wallpaper peeling at the corners. The heater hummed weakly. My suitcase lay open, half my life folded inside, the other half left behind. For the first time in my life, I had no place to belong. I tried calling Noah, but he didn't answer. Emily texted once, "Mom, please try to understand. We're doing what's best for you. Best for me." They had taken my house, my memories, my dignity, and called it care. That night, I dreamt of David. He stood in our old garden, trimming the roses. He didn't say a word, just looked at me with the quiet disappointment of a man who once believed love could hold a family together. When I woke, my pillow was damp. I spent days wandering, libraries, parks, bus stations, anywhere warm. Sometimes, I'd watch families together, the mothers carrying toddlers, the fathers laughing. Each scene was a small blade. On the 7th day, as I sat on a park bench feeding pigeons, a young woman approached. Her name was Sophie, a volunteer from a local community shelter. She asked if I needed help. I almost said no. Pride is a stubborn companion. But hunger and loneliness broke through my pride's armor. That night, I followed her to the shelter. The shelter smelled of soup and detergent. Rows of metal bunks lined the walls, each occupied by someone else's story. I was given a narrow bed by the window. It was clean, though the sheets carried the faint scent of bleach. Sophie checked in on me every night. She had kind eyes, the kind that reminded me of what Emily's used to look like, before ambition hardened them. One evening, I sat by the dining table stirring my soup, when Sophie asked, "Do you have family, Margaret?" "I did," I said softly. "Now I just have memories." She didn't press further. Over the next few weeks, I began volunteering, helping in the kitchen, folding laundry, reading to the older residents. It gave me a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in months. But each time the mail cart arrived, I flinched, afraid of what new legal letter might surface. One afternoon, Sophie walked in holding an envelope. "It's addressed to you." The return address froze my breath. Noah Lewis. Inside was a short note. "Mom, we've sold the house. The money's been invested for your future care. Please don't contact us. It's better this way. No signature, no warmth. Just cold practicality." I folded the letter, slipped it into my pocket, and walked outside. Snow had started falling again. The world looked clean, pure. Ironic, considering how dirty my heart felt. That night, I made a silent vow. I would not die here. Not in this shelter, not in shame. If my children thought I was weak, I would show them who I truly was. Justice might come slow, but I would find it. Months passed. I found work at a small cafe nearby. The owner, Mr. Thompson, was a widower too. Gentle, quiet, and kind. He let me work the morning shifts, serving coffee and muffins to office workers. The pay was small, but it gave me something priceless. Dignity. Every morning I'd tie my apron, greet customers, and pretend the past was buried. But some wounds don't stay hidden. One day, as I wiped the counter, a familiar voice froze me. Mom? It was Emily. She stood there in a designer coat, her expression a mix of shock and guilt. You're working here, she whispered. Yes, I said calmly. Why shouldn't I? Her lips trembled. You should have called me. I didn't know things were this bad. You didn't know, I said, smiling bitterly. You forged my signature, Emily. You stole my home. What part of that didn't you understand? People in the cafe turned to look. Emily lowered her voice. Please, Mom, not here. I'll send money. Keep it, I said, my voice steady. I earn what I need. You already took what you wanted. She left quickly, her heels clicking like accusations on tile. That night, Mr. Thompson sat beside me as we closed the shop. You don't have to tell me everything, he said, but you should know. Some things can still be set right. He told me about a friend, Helen Chambers, a retired lawyer who volunteered for senior rights cases. A week later, I met Helen. She was sharp, warm, and fierce in a way that made me feel seen again. When I showed her the documents, her brows knit together. This isn't legal, she said. They tricked you into signing over power of attorney, didn't they? I never signed anything, I said. She nodded slowly. Then we can fight this. And for the first time in months, I felt something flicker inside me. Hope. The legal process was long and exhausting. Helen helped me file a fraud case, collecting every scrap of evidence. Forged signatures, emails, text messages. Emily tried to reach out again, pleading for me to drop it. Noah, on the other hand, sent threats through lawyers. But I didn't bend. I had nothing left to lose, and everything to reclaim. During those months, I moved into a small rented apartment near the cafe. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I bought second-hand furniture, hung David's photo by the window, and planted new white roses on the balcony. Each bloom felt like a heartbeat returning. Helen would visit often, bringing files and tea. We'd spend hours preparing for court, while I relearned what it meant to stand up for myself. You raised them with love, she once said. Now, raise yourself with courage. The day of the hearing arrived. I wore David's old watch and a simple gray dress. My hands trembled, but my eyes didn't. Emily and Noah sat across the courtroom, avoiding my gaze. When the judge asked me to speak, I rose slowly. Your Honor? I began, my voice steady. I trusted my children with everything I had. I believed love meant safety, but they used that love to erase me. I may be old, but I am not invisible. I am not foolish, and I am not done. The courtroom fell silent. Helen presented the documents, the forged signatures, the altered dates, the falsified power of attorney. It was undeniable. When Noah was called to testify, his arrogance cracked. Under pressure, he admitted to handling things for convenience. Then came Emily. Her tears finally came. Not for me, but for herself. "I didn't mean to hurt her," she cried. "Noah said it was just business. I thought we'd buy her another place." The judge's gavel came down like thunder. The property transfer is nullified. The assets will be returned to Mrs. Lewis. The court also finds sufficient evidence for criminal charges of fraud and elder abuse. Noah's face turned pale. Emily sobbed. I stood still. I didn't smile, didn't gloat. Justice didn't need celebration. It needed peace. News spread quickly. The community was shocked. 2 successful siblings accused of defrauding their mother. Noah's company dropped him. Emily's reputation crumbled. Their friends vanished. The way false affection always does when truth appears. I didn't attend every hearing after that. I didn't need to watch them fall. I'd already done enough crying for a lifetime. Instead, I went back to the cafe, back to my roses, back to living. One afternoon, months later, Emily appeared again, her eyes hollow, her voice small. "Mom," she whispered, "I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry." I looked at her, truly looked, and saw not the daughter who betrayed me, but the little girl who once hid behind my skirt when thunder frightened her. "You broke my heart, Emily," I said quietly, "but I won't let you keep it." "I'm taking it back," she cried, and for the first time I didn't. "Maybe one day," I added, "you'll understand what love really means. It isn't ownership, it's care, and you forgot that." She nodded, then walked away, her shadow long and trembling. A year later, I returned to my old house. The new owner, a kind woman, allowed me to visit the garden whenever I wanted. The white roses were still there, taller now, blooming brighter than before. I stood by the fence, closing my eyes. I could almost hear David's laughter again. I wasn't the same woman anymore. I had been betrayed, broken, and left to fade. But instead I bloomed again. Injustice had taken my home, but it couldn't take my soul. And as the wind brushed my face, I realized something. Revenge isn't always about destroying others. Sometimes, it's about rebuilding yourself so completely that the people who broke you no longer matter. I walked away slowly, white petals catching in my coat. "Rest easy, David," I whispered. I found my way home again. And for the first time in years, my heart felt light. Not because I had won, but because I had survived.